Hi everyone and welcome to today's video. Today, as you can see from the title, I'm going over my how to conceal dark circles routine. I figured it was time to post a new updated version of this because the last time that I posted something like this was 2 years ago. So it's been a while. The way that I do things has changed. And so yeah, I figured that instead of answering questions individually, because I do get a lot of questions as far as what tools do I use, what concealers do I recommend, setting powders, all of that good stuff, correctors. Instead of doing that and answering everyone individually, that I could put it all in one video, and that way everybody has the updated information all in one spot. So let's get started. Now, the one thing that has definitely changed from a couple of years ago is that I've added eye masks to my skincare routine. So I don't use them every day, but I use eye masks like at least 2 to 3 times a week. I also have been rotating through different eye serums and different eye creams, which is why I'm not really including them in this video since they're constantly changing. But if you want information on what I'm currently using, like what is in my skincare routine, as of right now, I will list that in the description box below in case you're curious. I feel like it has made a difference, focusing more so on the skincare portion and not so much, still focusing on the makeup portion, but focusing on skincare as well, which is not something that I was really 100% doing before. So I've started doing that. I feel like it has made a difference. It's made a difference in diminishing lines, also brightening up the under eye area a little bit. I have noticed that as well. I've been trying my best to keep you all updated as far as what I'm using on my skin over on Instagram. So if you haven't followed me over there already, make sure that you do, because I just find it a lot easier to keep you all up to date, like on a regular basis as my products are changing. I do it through Insta stories. So if you haven't followed me, make sure that you do, and then that way if you have any questions as far as what my current skincare routine is at the moment, in the future, I can get back to you through there. So we're going to start off with a corrector. If you have dark circles like me, then chances are that you are going to need a corrector underneath your concealer in order to get the most out of your concealer, because if you don't use a corrector, then you're probably going to have to use multiple layers of whatever concealer you prefer, and that is going to not only appear cakey, like it's going to definitely set onto fine lines and move around on you perhaps. It's just better, less is more is what I've learned over the years, is that less is more. For me personally, I still really love my Becca corrector. I'm also using this other corrector from Bobbi Brown. This is in the shade Peach. They kind of look the same. They're pretty similar. That's what this one looks like. This Becca corrector here, the shade that I love to use is medium to deep. I was using the light to medium option, but that's because they didn't have the medium to deep yet. So I was using this one right here, but it's just too light. It wasn't correcting as much as I would have liked. So once they launched the medium to deep shade, this is the one that I've been using since then. Like I said, I also use this one. This one's really good as well. I just recently discovered the Hue Sticks from Live Tinted. This is what they look like right here. I like to use the shade Perk. This is really, really natural, very, very light on the skin. So whenever you are correcting, you don't even really notice that you have much on. However, out of all the correctors, I still prefer my Becca Under Eye Brightening Corrector. I'm just pretty dry underneath the eyes, and I feel like this does the best job at keeping the under eye hydrated without making it appear like too heavy or without moving my concealer around. So it does a really good job of staying put, correcting, and hydrating. So I usually apply a little bit of this with my ring finger, and right away you can already see how much it's canceling out the darkness underneath my eyes. And I just use a light layer of corrector. I don't go too heavy with this because it is a thick formula. If I go too heavy, it will settle into my fine lines, which I don't want. So just applying a nice light thin layer. So now that the color corrector is down, it is time for foundation. I get asked whether or not I apply foundation underneath my eyes. Personally, no, I don't. I try my best to just kind of go around it. Sometimes I will get foundation here along like the outer part of the under eye area darkness, which is fine, but I try to lessen the layers of a product that I apply underneath the eyes. It just helps keep things to a minimum, and it helps keep things from looking like too much, looking cakey, settling into fine lines, that kind of thing. So I'm just going to apply foundation to the entire face, and I'll be right back. All right, so now that foundation is on, it is time for concealer. Now, if you're looking to completely conceal the under eye area of any darkness, then you're gonna wanna choose a shade that is closest to your actual complexion, like closest to your foundation shade. Because if you choose a shade that is too light for you, I know that a lot of people like to use lighter concealers underneath the eyes in order to highlight and just kind of bring that part of the face forward, which is great. I love the look of that on a lot of different people, a lot of different faces. Like, it looks beautiful. However, if you're trying to conceal the under eye darkness, you don't want to choose concealers like that, because all that's going to do is give you this gray cast underneath the eyes, and it's going to do the opposite of what you want it to do. So you're wanting to like conceal, hide the darkness, it's only going to make it more obvious. It's going to look gray. It's not going to look pretty. So that's one thing that I've learned over the years, is to choose a concealer shade that's just closest to my complexion. Personally, right now, I am in love with this Pat McGrath concealer. It's one of the best concealers I've ever tried. And I'm 34, so I've tried a lot of concealers. This is such a beautiful concealer. The finish, just the amount of coverage that it delivers with such little amount of product, as you'll see. Another concealer that's really good is this one right here. This one's from Hourglass. It's their Vanish concealer. This one's in the shade Beach, which is the shade is the only reason why I don't reach for this one as much as this one. This shade is a little bit more neutral than this one. That's a little bit more peachy yellow. So as you can see here, this one right here, this one's the Hourglass shade in Beach, and this one here is the Pat McGrath shade in LM11. I prefer that over this under my under eye area, just because it does have that peachy undertone and it helps with the under eye darkness. So that's why I prefer this shade underneath my eyes. So what I do with this concealer is, like I said, you don't need a lot, and that's what I love about it. So I just apply one dot here to the inner corner. That's one thing that I wasn't doing before, is concealing the inner corner of my eye. That part does get dark, especially for us gals who have dark circles. It is dark. You do want to brighten it up. It's going to lessen the darkness overall underneath the eyes. And then I apply another dot right here, another one right here, and then one out here. The darkness underneath my eyes is more concentrated here along the inner corner than out here. So that's why I do the majority of the product right here, and then just one dot out here. All right, next comes blending. Now, I used to use a beauty blender in order to blend out my concealers underneath the eyes, but now I use this little tool right here. This is the Deluxe Crease Brush from Real Techniques. It's an eye duo. It comes in like a set of two. Instead of using it for the eyes, I use it underneath the eyes. It has made such a difference. I don't use as much product because I am using this nice, light, fluffy brush that spreads around the product quite evenly, and it is very dense, so it's not gonna absorb a lot of the product, and therefore you won't have to use as much. So just start by stippling the concealer, and I start out and work my way up. I try to avoid putting too much concealer right along where my fine lines are, because then the product will collect in those fine lines. But you don't really need the concealer to go all the way to the bottom of the under eye area. That's what I was having to do, or that's what I was doing before. It's just taking the concealer and swiping it to where it would be right underneath my lash line, when we don't really need to do that, because we need to concentrate the product where the darkness is, which is right here along like the outer parts. I also feel like I have more control with this little brush than I did with my makeup sponges, which is why I prefer it now. All right, so now that the concealer is on and I've blended it out, it is time to set it in place, because you don't want it to move around in any way. You want to lock everything where it is. Now, I have two different powders that I use. This one right here, this is the RCMA No Color Powder. I really like it. I've been using it for a really, really long time. But what I've been using lately is the Pat McGrath Labs, the Blurring Under Eye Powder. I use this with pretty much every single concealer that I use right now, because for one, I have it, and for two, I actually really like it. This one's in the shade medium. I really like it because it does lock everything in place without making it look dry. That's the number one thing that I'm looking for whenever I am choosing setting powders, especially for the under eye area. So I just grab a little bit of this with my tapered highlighter brush. This is the F35. I find it to be the perfect shape for the under eye area. So just grab a little bit of this. I don't swirl the brush around. That's not what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to pack the powder underneath the eye, but I am trying to grab just a little bit. I just tap it in order to leave me with a nice thin layer, and then I use that and press it. I don't drag it back and forth. I press it on it to the under eye area so that we don't disturb what we've just blended out underneath. Grab a little more and press it. All right, so now that I'm all done with the under eye area, I'm going to zoom you in so that you all can see exactly what this looks like up close, because even though certain things look really nice from far away, once you have them in your face, you're like, it's not the same, right? So I want to show you guys exactly what this looks like up close and personal. All right, so here it is. As you can see, everything is concealed. Nothing looks heavy. Nothing looks excessively dry. I really, really like the way it looks. All right, so that completes it. That is how I have been concealing the under eye area, and I feel like this definitely works for me in concealing the under eye darkness. I really hope that you all were able to take some of the things that I mentioned today, some of the products that I listed, some of the things that I had to say. I really hope that that helps you in incorporating those things into your makeup routine so that perhaps it helps you with your under eye darkness. Thank you all so much for watching. I truly hope that you enjoyed this video and that you found it helpful. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss out on future videos, and also don't forget to follow me on Instagram, where I absolutely love to interact with you all. As always, take care, and I will see you all in my next video. Mwah! Bye.